The fire investigator said he took those slides as a part of his investigation to see if he could match anything that was found on the bottle inside the car, and he said if that evidence had been destroyed, he would have had to sign off on it. But an LAPD officer who was not involved in the investigation at all signed off on the destruction of that evidence.
Jaguar Wright has allegedly dropped something wild, a supposed leaked voice call of Diddy sounding like he's directing his people to erase anything that could still trace back to him. This isn't just messy gossip, this is the kind of thing that makes federal agents lean forward in their chairs, because if they catch even a hint that evidence was moved or tampered with, Diddy's future inside a cell could turn permanent real quick. And the things mentioned on that call, pizza boxes asking someone to reach out to Jay, whispering about a Netflix movie, at first it all sounds random, almost harmless, like code words tossed around without meaning. But once you look deeper, those tiny clues start linking together like pieces of a puzzle that was never meant to be solved. People online are already pointing out how unusual the language in that call sounded, almost like he was scrambling to shut down trails before they turned into problems. The whole pizza boxes thing has folks wondering if it's code for something being delivered, removed, or hidden.
Do not entertain none of this nonsense and nothing over the phone. I'm gonna need you to get rid of all the leftover pizza boxes.
The what?
All the boxes left over from the pizza. All the boxes.
Okay.
Make sure you recycle the plastic like we talked about.
Yeah.
Did Jay reach out yet?
Nah, Bob. He ghosting.
What the f is this motherfucker doing?
It's all good. You about to get out on bail.
No. Hey, yo, check this out. Need you to reach out to the producer. Let these motherfuckers know there's a release date for that new Netflix movie.
Alright, Bob. What about all these lawsuits, though, Bob?
Ain't none of them getting shit. I ain't worth nothing. Ain't got shit in my name anyway. Don't even worry about it. Bunch of money hungry.
The Netflix reference might be a warning about someone working on a documentary that could expose too much, and asking someone to contact Jay could hint he's trying to figure out which of his longtime connections might still be willing to protect him or distance themselves fast. So now we're diving into everything we know, breaking down each piece and figuring out what this leaked call might really reveal about Diddy, and the kind of trouble he might be facing next. When the call starts, Diddy is speaking to his son, King Combs, and the very first thing out of his mouth is basically a warning. Don't say anything on the phone. That alone tells you everything. He's clearly trying to hide something, because everybody knows jail calls are recorded and monitored. If he's reminding his own son to stay quiet,
when the feds come to them and show them what they got on tape, because if he had 250 tapes all over, 250 cameras all over the house, somebody got caught stealing a cookie out the cookie jar. It could be your favorite pastor. It could be your favorite politician. But they didn't think they was being watched. And Brother Love was watching.
Yeah, I mean, TD Jakes, he haven't even came out and said anything. And him and Diddy was real cool.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, man. And I know the people in the congregation over there is shaking in their boots, because this man didn't led them probably, allegedly probably led them to damnation, because those people's hearts are gonna be broken if that man is seen on those tapes doing anything. Because people always put their faith in the pastor instead of putting their faith in God. And what they need to do is understand that he's just a man. And he has a history. It's not looking too good for him.
So you feel like celebs are worried that they might be on tape?
Oh, they know. That's why they ain't speaking up or saying nothing. Yeah, I was at a Diddy party, but I know I ain't do nothing. When you don't know somebody's taping you, when you don't know that somebody is videoing you in some kind of form or fashion, you got that alcohol, you got the drugs in you, they're a little loose, bruh. They let down all their inhibitions. The music is pumping. He said it himself. He got it so hot in there that you got to take your clothes off. He said that himself, bruh. So a lot of them, what was what he said? I think a lot of them was being swallowed.
It means he's already worried the walls are closing in. Then he slips into that strange line about getting rid of the leftover pizza boxes. Come on, nobody really believes he's talking about actual pizza sitting around a mansion like his. That sounds like straight up coded language for something he wants gone fast, something he doesn't want law enforcement to lay eyes on if they pull up again.
Prosecutors asked the fire investigator in charge of the case about fingerprint cards that were taken from the home when they were investigating the burglary about a month earlier. The fire investigator said he took those slides as a part of his investigation to see if he could match anything that was found on the bottle inside the car, and he said if that evidence had been destroyed, he would have had to sign off on it. But an LAPD officer who was not involved in the investigation at all signed off on the destruction of that evidence. And that's when the defense freaked out, stopped everything, and called for a mistrial.
Okay, slow that down one more time. You said the destruction of the evidence, that is, the fingerprint card, was ordered by someone not connected to the arson investigation?
Correct. That's what that fire investigator testified to. And he said he found that very, very odd. That was not typical procedure.
Okay, what was the ground for the mistrial? Diddy's defense team goes crazy when that comes into evidence that someone ordered the destruction of that fingerprint card with a female fingerprint on it. Was that female someone that worked for Sean Combs? That's the big question. Do we know who ordered the destruction of the fingerprint evidence, Sydney? Can't be that hard to find out. And what was the grounds for the mistrial?
So that's exactly what the defense team is getting at. They called that prosecutorial misconduct because the prosecutors were suggesting that Combs ordered that evidence be destroyed and somehow paid off investigators to make that happen.
And the crazy part? A lot of people online are convinced he's referring to blackmail material, the kind of recordings and files people have whispered about for years. Some think this might be footage the federal investigators still haven't located, and the way he mentioned it makes it sound like he's scrambling to erase whatever could still expose him. It's like he's trying to clean up a digital trail that should have never existed in the first place. Then he adds another strange instruction telling King to recycle the plastic. Nobody believes he's suddenly worried about environmental responsibility. That sounds like another coded message, maybe referring to drives, devices, or anything physical that could store information.
Brought you on to speak on Diddy, and it seemed that as if your focus turned to Jay-Z, his wife.
That's always been my focus.
Yes. What?
They're one and the same. Tell me something. When you have a peanut butter jelly sandwich, if it's just peanut butter, it's just peanut butter. If it's just jelly, it's jelly. When you put it together, it becomes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and the taste is undeniable.
You're saying Diddy and Jay-Z is peanut butter jelly?
Peanut butter and jelly. Let's deal with the sandwich.
We asked you this last time, and Piers Morgan said it. They're not here to defend themselves. Do you think they will? The Carters will speak about any of this at all? Do you just feel that they'll make any statement about what's going on?
Beyonce is losing hundreds of thousands, millions of followers every day. And she still hasn't said anything. Just pretending like life is great in Paris.
It all feels like he's trying to make sure every trace connected to him disappears before investigators circle back. And let's be honest, who in jail is suddenly stressing about recycling? That's not real concern. That sounds like more coded talk, the kind people use when they're trying to talk around something dangerous while pretending it's harmless.
Has revealed the release date for his Diddy documentary. Sean Combs' The Reckoning is hitting Netflix on December 2nd. 50 Cent captioned it, "They said I was capping. What happened?" And it's been so long at this point, I thought maybe he was really just joking and this documentary wasn't happening, but obviously I was wrong. Because this is actually official. Not only is 50 Cent just posting this, so he's not trolling, it's being confirmed by multiple media outlets. And I have a feeling right now Diddy is sweating about what 50 Cent is about to put in this documentary. You know, 50 Cent's connection when it came to the Diddy trial. Not only that, we cannot forget during this Diddy trial, it was alleged that Diddy wanted to off 50 Cent. 50 Cent stays trolling Diddy, so I am afraid that he is probably about to drag Diddy for filth in this documentary. It's about to be so bad. This is going to be a documentary that I'm going to watch just because I want to see how 50 Cent actually puts together this documentary.
And what's actually made of plastic, CDs, DVDs, old tapes, memory cards, hard drive casings, all the stuff that can hold information someone definitely wouldn't want investigators touching. Whatever he meant, it sounded like he was trying to make sure those items vanished before the wrong hands got to them. So is he trying to destroy evidence the feds might still be tracing? At this point, the answer looks like a solid yes. His tone in that call wasn't casual. It sounded like someone scrambling to erase history before it walks into a courtroom. Then the call takes an even more interesting turn. Diddy asks, "Did Jay reach out yet?" And King replies that he hasn't heard anything. Pop? He's ghosted. If Diddy really is talking about Jay-Z here, which a lot of people believe, this suggests something serious, because if Jay suddenly went silent, it could mean he doesn't want any association with whatever trouble is about to explode around Diddy. And the implication behind that silence, people are already reading it as Jay stepping back fast, maybe because he doesn't want going to be tied to anything that might be uncovered. It paints a picture of someone who was close enough to be contacted in a moment of panic, but distant enough now to pretend he was never connected at all. Then, in the middle of the call, Diddy suddenly tells King to reach out to the producer of that upcoming Netflix project, the same one 50 Cent has been working on, the one everybody knows is supposed to expose everything that went on behind the scenes at Diddy's events. Why would he bring that up while sitting in jail? It sounds like he's trying to shut something down before it hits the public, almost like he wants to delay or block the series before it puts more heat on him. But here's where the theory split in two. While a lot of people think Diddy's coded talk was about hidden footage he might still have tucked away, others online believe that idea doesn't fully add up anymore.
Mr. Shocks, go ahead.
So, Judge, this is sort of a...
What is the deal in the new case?
The deal with the new case is that he was on the strip to...
No, what did he plead to? What is he supposed to be pleading to?
The prelim went forward.
Okay.
It was found out.
Okay. Okay. Then you don't have to talk about that.
Okay.
I was just asking. I thought that case was negotiated, but the prelim went forward and he got found out. Okay.
He was on Las Vegas Boulevard to follow up with some job applications. He worked there before, even though he has some convictions. He had job applications at Burlington Coat Factory in Canes. So he goes to follow up with those, and then this happens with the new jurisdiction that has been created.
Especially since the federal investigation has already seized so much material. These folks argue that the feds have enough evidence on the digital side to give him trouble for a long time, so why would he be stressing over old recordings now? That's why another theory is starting to gain traction, a much darker one. Some believe he wasn't talking about blackmail footage at all, but rather about a totally separate investigation that's resurfaced around him, the long-running case involving Tupac Shakur's murder. And with new eyes on that case, the timing suddenly feels too sharp to ignore. In a recent interview, former LAPD detective Greg Kading, one of the main investigators on Tupac's case, explained details he uncovered years ago, and the things he revealed still shock people today.
Sam, I met you in what was that? We had a place called Compton Hydraulics. And he called and asked to use some lowriders. And I pulled over my 64, and he had Usher. Usher was a little kid, like 13, 14, and Usher like, "Mom, I want to buy that car." Ooh. I said, "Young man, this car ain't for sale right here. It's priceless. It's like my girl." You know what I'm saying? But that's when I met Puff. Then he gave it. I met him that day. That was like, 91? That's when I met Puff. I met him, then after that Big Jake stuff, I guess he knew that Zip knew me. And he called and he said, "How you feel about me going to concerts out there?" I'm like, "What's gonna happen?" He like, "Man, I'm scared of the big boy." I mean, he didn't say it in that type of words, but he like the big CEO guy, you know what I'm saying? The first time we went to the concert, it was in San Diego, and this nigga had Navy SEALs in the next room. They looking like the FBI with earpieces and everything. Like, damn. And that tripped me out. Like, man, what the fuck you need with them? He like, man, I'm just gonna be safe. Matter of fact, the Dallas Cowboys was in stayed in the same hotel with us that night. They was in the same. Dallas Cowboys were playing the San Diego Chargers, and Dion them was playing for them. Dion, Michael Irvin, Aikman, and Emmitt Smith. Them. It was all. There was somebody at that hotel was pathetic, boy. Shocking them dudes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But yeah, that night he had Navy SEALs up in there. You can ask Gene Deal, you think I'm lying. You know what I'm saying? The next one. What the
His claims paint a picture of a crime world filled with secret deals, tension between crews, and decisions that had deadly consequences, and it has many wondering if Diddy is worried that this old investigation is heating up again. Kading explained that during his investigation, he kept hearing one explosive claim that Diddy allegedly offered $1 million to have Tupac and Suge Knight taken out. And the person who told him this wasn't some random name, it was Keith D, the same man who is now officially charged in Tupac's murder after all these years. Hearing that from someone so tied to the case gave the story a whole different weight, and people still can't believe how bold that accusation sounded. Keith D even claimed that Diddy was so shaken by Tupac and Suge that he had Navy SEAL level protection around him at one point. That detail alone is wild, because it shows how deep the fear and tension supposedly went during that era. And the strangest part, the same group of names keeps resurfacing even decades later, almost like the old story never truly faded away.
I can tell you regarding Diddy back when Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls were murdered. He wasn't exactly cooperative. He didn't do what you would assume a friend or, you know, a manager, so to speak, would do. So from a law enforcement perspective, he was very unhelpful in an area where he ought to have been contributing towards getting some type of justice in those two cases. But as we found out in time, he was complicit in one of them, and which would make sense why maybe he didn't cooperate in the other, because the two were, you know, they were just, we always understood that they were somehow interconnected. And so if you're going to cooperate or provide information on one and you're culpable in the other, you know, one thing could lead back to the next. And that's where I think he understood his own vulnerability.
You know, it's interesting because recently I did an interview with Suge Knight from prison, and he made the allegation that Diddy's been an informant for 20 years.
Yeah, everything that Suge says ought to be taken with a grain of salt. I mean, nobody lies more than Suge Knight. And you know, so Suge Knight is one of the biggest hypocrites I've ever met throughout this whole entire story as it relates back to either Tupac or Biggie's. And so I take everything that he has with a grain of salt. Most of what he says is pure speculation. It's just based on stories he's heard and just hearsay and all of that. And again, we kind of, as you know, as Christian men, ought to be careful about falsely accusing people, because even when those things turn out to be untrue, the damage is already done just by, you know, you can't unring a bell of an accusation.
It just went quiet until now. Kading also talked about how his view of Diddy has shifted over the years. Back then, during the height of his investigation, he said Diddy wasn't cooperative when detectives tried to figure out who was behind the deaths of Tupac and Biggie.
And when he told us about the solicitation for Tupac's murder, it made sense within the context of the ongoing rivalry that was taking place between Puffy and Suge, Biggie and Tupac, and the gangs that they were affiliating with. So there's already a well-established history. And so once he tells us that, yeah, you know, Puffy was scared to death, he knew he had a target on his back. Every time he came to LA, Suge's goons were, you know, trying to track him down. They had kidnapped somebody in furtherance of trying to find out where Puffy's mother and family lived. So all of this led to support or substantiate the claims that Keith Davis was making about Puffy's solicitation. Originally, I thought that the solicitation was somewhat just an expression of exaggeration. Like, man, these motherfuckers are breathing down my back. They, they want me dead. When they go and he gives us this explanation of the solicitation, I thought that perhaps Puffy was just really desperate and afraid. He's like, man, I'll give you whatever you want to take care of these guys. I just don't want to have to come into LA and, look over my shoulder. So I thought it was that. But as things unraveled in the last decade, I'm seeing a completely different character and nature of Puffy that I didn't take into consideration at that time. Now I see maybe he's capable of doing something as direct and intentional as what Keefe D was saying happened.
For someone who was close to the situation, someone who had real influence in that world, he didn't move like a friend trying to help, or even like a manager trying to push for justice. Instead, Kading felt like Diddy was pulling back, keeping distance, and refusing to share anything that might connect dots. And when someone chooses silence in moments where the whole industry is hurting, it makes people wonder what they're protecting, themselves or the truth. And now, looking back with fresh eyes, Kading believes Diddy might have been keeping quiet because he was scared of slipping up and revealing something that could connect him to one situation while he was trying to talk about another. It's like he didn't want to accidentally open the wrong door, especially in cases that were already filled with tension and unanswered questions. Kading even went through old federal files from the 90s and said there wasn't a single sign that Diddy was ever an informant during that era. That's only useful for that time period though. It doesn't erase the possibility that he might have played a different role years later. People online love to throw around theories, but this part just shows that the paperwork from the 90s doesn't tell the full story of what Diddy might have become afterward. But when it comes to the allegation that Diddy put money on Tupac's life, Kading made something very clear. He actually believes Keefe D's version of events. And that's a big deal because when they interviewed Keefe D back in 2008 and 2009, almost everything else he said ended up being verified or backed up by evidence. His claims lined up too cleanly to ignore, so when he mentioned the alleged payout, it wasn't viewed as some dramatic story thrown in for attention.
As soon as Puffy's bodyguard shot Suge's bodyguard, now blood was on the ground. Now it's an actual feud where there's nowhere to go but, towards retaliation.
So that's where it started then. Two bodyguards shot at one another.
One shot and the other.
Oh, okay, I got it. And that was back in Atlanta?
That was in Atlanta. And this was what? It was 1995, I believe it was.
And then Tupac was shortly after that, and then Biggie shortly after that, within a year.
Yeah, Tupac in September of 96 and Biggie in March of 97. But there was all kinds of other drama and hostility and gunplay that had taken place in between those individual events.
And in your investigation, I mean, were you able to turn a lot of people, flip a lot of people, create a lot of informants?
Absolutely. And everybody, we say this all the time, everybody has a number, and you get them pressed up against a wall, and there's a number that they aren't willing to do insofar as a prison term. And when they need to wiggle themselves out of it, more often than not, they do by providing information to the law enforcement.
And let me ask you this, Greg, regardless of, and this is something I learned, regardless of, all of the advancements in technology and video surveillance and everything, most of these cases don't survive without witnesses, without informants. Would you find that to be true?
Absolutely. Yeah, informants are still one of our strongest tools.
It carried weight. It came from someone who had already told a long list of things that investigators later confirmed, giving this claim a shadow that still hangs over the case today. And when you step back and look at the tension between the record labels, the friendships, the street connections, and the fear floating around during that era, everything starts lining up in one big picture. Nothing existed in isolation back then. Every move created another ripple, and those ripples kept pushing both camps into deeper conflict. Kading also broke down how the whole rivalry between Diddy and Suge Knight even began. At the start, Bad Boy and Death Row weren't enemies. The labels were actually respectful toward each other. But things flipped quick once both sides tried to expand into the other's territory. Bad Boy was interested in building a West Coast presence, and death row started eyeing the East Coast like they were ready to plant a flag there too. That's when the tension shifted from business to straight up offense. But the real breaking point came when Suge Knight's close friend and bodyguard Jake Robles was shot and killed in Atlanta by someone allegedly connected to Diddy's circle. After that moment, the rivalry stopped being about chart positions and industry influence. It transformed into something personal, something emotional, something that couldn't be fixed with a meeting or a contract. And even with all these layers, Kading now believes something that frustrates a lot of people. He doesn't think Diddy will ever be arrested for Tupac's murder. Not because there aren't theories or claims, but because the evidence needed to officially tie him to the case just isn't strong enough in the eyes of the law. Investigators can feel a pattern, they can see the connections, but without concrete proof, it stays locked in the shadows of history instead of a courtroom.
Detective, what do you feel is needed, or what would you be comfortable having to present a case against Puffy? With all the information that we know today, what would you need, in your professional opinion, to actually try to pursue him?
Well, if the claims that Keefe D made about the solicitation, the multiple solicitations happened, and I believe there were conversations, but if those things were a true bona fide solicitation for murder, then you're going to need some really strong, credible, corroborating witnesses. You're going to need people that said, I was there when a financial transaction took place and it was very clear what that money was for. I was there when the agreement was made. I spoke with Puff about it and he told me that he'd hired these guys. You know, you're gonna need some really strong, credible witnesses to support what Keefe D said. Absent that, you're dead in the water.
So do you think it'll ever be possible that anything will get to Puffy or no?
Not, in my opinion, I don't see it happening.
Could all of this be happening because Diddy and his team managed to move whatever evidence might still tie him back to the situation? A lot of people think that's exactly what's going on, especially now that fresh claims about missing material keep popping up. And when Kading was asked what it would take to actually build a solid case linking Diddy to Tupac's murder, he didn't dance around the truth. He laid it out plain. He said that even if every statement Keefe D made was accurate, even if the moments he described where Diddy allegedly asked for the hit were all real, there still isn't enough legal proof to officially charge him. That answer shocked people because it means the biggest pieces of the story come from confessions, not physical evidence. And without that physical trail, prosecutors can't move forward. And now with talk of evidence disappearing, short sentences popping up in other cases, and whispers that he might even get early release, the whole thing feels way too convenient. It gives the impression that someone behind the scenes is clearing obstacles for him, like he has serious support working overtime to keep his name out of the courtroom. It's the kind of situation that makes people wonder how many doors are being quietly opened and how many are being quietly shut. So what do you think? Do you believe Diddy deserves all these lucky breaks he keeps getting? Or does something about this whole situation feel off to you? Drop your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you on the next one.